Hey, so to go through this question, now this is a good example of a question where they combine different topics, and it's not really many clues given to you about what topics are involved, so we'll get to it as we go through it. So ABCD is a kite. Okay, now little spoiler here, a kite, something that you learned in year 7, is a shape that looks like this. And the key thing to realize here is that the diagonals of a kite, so if I make those diagonals, if it's a perfect kite where that equals that and that equals that, these will be at right angles. And what this involves is straight line graphs with a perpendicular line. And the key thing to remember from that, if you've got a line and it's got the equation y equals mx plus c, so it can be any line with that equation, a perpendicular line, the key thing to remember about it is that your gradient m will be the negative reciprocal, so it will be minus 1 over m for whatever that m is. And notice I don't put equals, I put goes to, so your gradient goes to minus 1 over m. It's not the same as 1 over m, it's minus 1 over m. So for example, if your gradient was 2, your new gradient would be minus a half. If your gradient was already negative, so and say it was a fraction, it was 3/4, it would be the negative reciprocal, so it would be plus 4/3. Okay, so keeping those things in mind, let's get started with this question. So I always find, like, when you've got a question like this and you've got lots of space, sketch it out in not a perfect diagram, but a neat enough diagram so that it makes sense as you're working it along. So A is the point with coordinates minus 2, 10. So minus 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's our point A. Let's write 2, 10 as well. Minus 2, 10. Point B is the point with coordinates minus 27 over 5, 4. Now, minus 27 over 5 is, if you work that out, how many 5s in 27 is 5, so it'll be minus 5 and 2/5, or minus 5.4. Either way, it doesn't really matter. I would keep it in that top heavy fraction. It's just so when I'm plotting it, so minus 5.4 minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.4, so it's somewhere around there, and it goes up 4. So point B will be somewhere like that. Point C is the coordinates 4 minus 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, minus 4, 5 will look like that. Okay, so let's build our line around our kite around it. So that was point C, right? And now it tells us that AB is equal to AD and CB equals CD. So we don't know exactly where it is. I'm going to put point D there, and that's what we're trying to find out. We're trying to figure out this line here. Now, as I mentioned earlier, our diagonals are perpendicular. So these have to be at right angles. And in effect, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the equation of this line by using the coordinates to find the gradient. You can, because you're given coordinates, you can find the full equation. And then I want to find the equation of line B to D. And what that enables us to work out is our midpoint. So I'm going to label M. Once you know the midpoint, you can work out, well, how do I get from B to M? How many steps across, how many steps up? and then I can repeat that because that distance there has to be the same as that distance there because of the symmetry of the shape. We can work it out from there. So first of all, let's work out the equation of AC. Let's do that in a different color. Let's say AC, it's not a vector, it's a line. So for AC, let's work out the gradient first. Here we can use y2 minus y1. So to work out your gradient, remember it's the change in your y coordinates divided by the change in your x coordinates. And if you remember the formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And looking at those points, let's put our points in so it makes it a bit easier. Point B was, let's keep it consistent with colors, minus 27 over 5, 4. C was 4, 5, 4 minus 5. Okay, so to work out my gradient then from A to C, the change in y is going to be minus 5 minus 10 over 4 minus minus 2. Be careful with your negatives when you're doing this. Okay, either plug that into your calculator or work that out. Minus 5 minus 10 is minus 15. 4 minus minus 2 is 6. Simplifying that down, divide them both by 3. That gives us minus 5 over 2. Now I know that's the gradient. I know it's going to have the equation y equals mx plus c. I know what the gradient is. It's minus 5 over 2 x plus some c that we don't know. And I can substitute either a or c in. Doesn't matter which one. Let's plug 5 in. C in. So minus 5 equals minus 5 over 2 times 4 plus c, minus 5, that gives us minus 10 plus c. Add 10 to both sides, that gives us 5 equals c. So therefore my final equation for AC is y equals minus 5 over 2x plus 5. The equation there, as I said, we want to find the equation of that, and when it equals the equation of that, will give us the midpoint. Okay, so that's A to C. Now to find the equation of B to D, our gradient this time, as I was saying before, if you've got two lines that are perpendicular, your gradient will be, remember, the negative reciprocal. Another thing to remember about perpendicular lines, the gradient m times minus 1 over m equals minus 1. Sometimes if you need to prove that two lines are perpendicular, if you multiply their gradients together, you should always get the answer minus 1, but that's something else anyway. So our gradient here will be the negative reciprocal of minus 5 over 2. The negative reciprocal of that will be plus 2/5. So it's going to be y equals 2/5 x plus c. And again, out of B to D, I can only substitute in this value that they've given us. So I can substitute in my coordinates for B. So when x is minus 27 over 5, y equals 4. So 4 equals 2/5 times minus 27 over 5 plus c. So 4 equals, and that'll give us minus 54 over 25 plus c. Add that to both sides to work out what c is. Just going to do that on my calculator here. So minus 54 over 25 or plus 54 over 25 gives us 154 over 25 equals c. So therefore that equation equals 154 over 25. Let's redo that. I'll do my gradient first just to keep it consistent. So my gradient was 2/5 x plus 154 over 25. So now that I've got the equation of that line, and I've got the equation of that line, and as I said, we want to find the midpoint. So the midpoint is when those two graphs are equal to each other. And if that's y equals 2/5 x plus 154 over 25, this is y equals, again, because the y coordinate there is the same for both, I can basically equate them. I can put them both equal to each other, which sets me up an equation that I can solve and work out my x coordinate for the midpoint. So here I would add 5 over 2x both sides and subtract that. So 2/5 x plus 5 over 2x. So adding that to both sides. Subtract 154 from both sides. I've already got 5. It'll be minus 154 over 25. So 2/5 plus 5 over 2. That gives me 29 over 10 x, and 5 minus 154 over 25 gives me minus 29 over 25. And then from there, to work out what x is, I need to do that value divided by that. So on my calculator, I'm just going to press divided by 29 over 10, and x equals minus 2/5. A nice and neat answer. If that's my x coordinate, how can I work out my y coordinate? Well, I've got two equations to choose from. I can use either one of these. So if x is minus 2/5, y will equal minus 5 over 2 times minus 2/5 plus 5. So I've just plugged it into that coordinate to get my y coordinate. So minus 2/5 times minus 5 over 2 plus 5, y equals 6. That's a nice and neat answer actually, because that cancels out with that. That cancels out, becomes plus 1, so 1 plus 5. Now, that tells me, therefore, the midpoint has a value minus 2/5. So my x coordinate was minus 2/5. My y coordinate is 6. Let's go back there and put that in. So my midpoint there now, I know, is minus 2/5, 6. So now what I want to work out here then, for my final bit of the answer, I need to work out, well, how do I get from there to there? In the x direction, I'm going from minus 27 over 5 to minus 2/5. Notice the arrow is not taken away. I'm going from there to there. So I need to find the difference between those two, and that will give me that distance across. So if I do minus 2/5, take away that, so minus 2/5 minus 27 over 5. Again, got to be really careful with your double negatives there. The difference between that will be minus 2/5 minus 27 over 5, which gives us an answer of 5. So it's going across 5. And similarly, my point B starts at 4 and ends at 6. So if it goes from 4 to 6, it goes up by 2. Now you can either work out double that to work out D, or you can work out M to D is going to be the same as that. So to go from M to D, I'm going to start at minus 2/5, 6, that's the midpoint, and I want to add 5 to x. If I add minus 2/5, add 5, That gives me 23/5. That's my x coordinate. My y coordinate, it goes up by 2. Sorry, it goes up by 6. Sorry, no, it goes up by 2. So from 6, what does it go up to? If it's already starting at 6 and it goes up to 8. And that is the coordinate for D. So this is a good example of a question where they go through, this is to do with kites. You've got to remember from year 7 here that kites have perpendicular lines there. And you've also got to be able to work out the equation of a line given coordinates. So you need to be able to find the gradient and the y-intercept by subbing in a coordinate to be able to work out the equation. You also need to be able to work out a perpendicular line and it's an equation. You need to know that the perpendicular gradient is the negative reciprocal, and then you can work out the equation of the two. Once you know that, if you equate the two, that make both equations equal to each other, then that gives me, so I solve it for x, it tells me what the x coordinate is. So that's what we were doing here. We worked out the x coordinate was -2/5. You can plug it into either one of those lines, so sub it into either one of those two, and you can work out your y coordinate, which we worked out as 6. And then once you know what that coordinate is and that coordinate, because this line goes, in this case, from there to there, from -27/5 to -2/5, work out the difference. We worked it out to be 5. Work out the difference between your y coordinates, which we worked out to be 2. And then you can either go from B and double that, so go 10 across and 4 up, or you can just start from M and go 5 across and 2 up, and that will work out your coordinates of D. Hope that helps.